Charlie can't be here today, so you're stuck with me. First order of business, has everybody had a chance to take a look at the uh, minutes from last meeting? And if so, I would entertain a motion to approve.
I'll do a motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. That was Sherry Clark. Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Who was that?
Howard?
Oh, Howard. Okay, thank you. All right. Any comment? All those in favor, just kind of raise your hand up or make some sort of a signal on there. Opposed? Anybody opposed? Speak out. All right, we're approved. All right, well, let's get into the meeting. There we go. So originally I had planned on
Hey, Tom.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but just to underscore, do we have any public comment?
Yes, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Yeah, just want to make sure we follow public meeting protocol. Looks like we're good. Thank you, Tom.
All right. Originally, I was going to talk a little bit about Power School and Naviance, which was one of the tools that both Deb and Sherry had checked out. But I received notification this morning that WorkSource is actually partnered with Metrics Learning. And so I'm going to recommend that we reach out to WorkSource and ask them to present at our next meeting so we can see what that is and see whether or not that leverages well to maybe the educational side of things that we've also explored to see whether or not it's going to be a one-stop shopping tool. And I did have a Zoom meeting scheduled with Power School next week, which I just canceled this morning, and I was going to invite anybody who was interested in it. The one thing I was thinking of Venkat, you had talked about, no, you don't look surprised. I remember everything. You talked about the use of AI in doing career exploration and that sort of thing. They do use that with their tools. So, and the example I actually looked at was where they looked at different types of employers, let's say in the high-tech field, and where one type of job description was given, it actually allows you to be able to say, okay, well, what does that mean over at Intel versus what does that mean someplace else? And what are the things you need to know in order to apply for a job at those different places? So it gives you the ability to ask and to actually explore deeper than just kind of the general, here's what computer programming is all about or whatever, or computer engineer. Anyway, we have a robust schedule today with different things we're looking at. So what have we got next on the, we have Sherry Clark up. Sherry, it's your floor to talk about the employability skills and the high level action plan. So you got it.
I believe you're muted, Sherry.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I was muted and then I couldn't find where to unmute when I was sharing, so my apologies. Even though I practiced this a minute ago, it's always something. So thank you for letting me present today. Charlie asked me to just present on this action plan, and I think there's probably two reasons that he asked me to present this. One is we talked a couple of months ago about how we move these projects forward, and so in this particular project, we had a meeting. Mary Louise Vanetta, who's on here today, was at our meeting. as well as Tom, Charlie, Dean, Craig from Willamette Workforce Partnerships, Susan and Maggie, both from my office, or our office at ODE, and then Penny joined us from the STEM and did some note taking and so forth. And so if you have a desire after we get through this and you're like, well, I wish I was at that meeting, then all you got to do is let me know, because we will probably continue to do these maybe at least once a year. And maybe more. So one of the things that we decided to do with organ employability skills was just to start looking at clarifying our vision and goals. We looked at formalizing partnerships and engagement, thinking about what is engagement, who are our partners. Then we looked at some of the ensuring integrity and relevance, which included our funding and sustainability, and then looking at identifying our reporting metrics, performance standards, and accountability. I'm not going to go into all of these things today. I'm going to give you a super high level of kind of what we accomplished at that meeting. So in clarifying our vision and goals, we really wanted to have a really solid message. We wanted a message that would include all the key components. And then we also wanted just a little bit smaller message. So you'll see there's a short version here. This was really to make sure that we had a unified voice. And I've become aware, and I'm very grateful, that there are a number of practitioners out there, as well as folks that speak at conferences, and they will speak on OES on our behalf. But because of that, I wanted to make sure that I was able to give them really clear information and that we really could move in a way that we were all describing things in pretty much the same way. So on this document, you'll see those two messaging pieces. And then we wanted to create, and I'm going to pop over here for just a second, we wanted to create a few more infographics that would really help us in thinking about the work that we do. So these are just some examples. Here's our roadmap. What are we doing when we're doing OES? We're defining, teaching, practicing, storytelling, assessing, and certifying. These documents or these PowerPoint slides here are things that other people can grab and use to talk about organ employability skills. I also became aware that a lot of folks that are sharing this wanted to have an activity when they got done sharing it. And so there I've included two possible things in there. And I'm not sure, did that show you the PowerPoint slides? Sometimes it doesn't roll with me. Okay, I don't hear anything, so I'll just keep going.
Yeah, we can see.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go back now to our integrated one pager here, and so that's where we should be now. You should be seeing that page. We looked at formalizing our partnerships again. There is a full document here that I'm not going to go into because we really dug into engagement and how do we know when we have engagement? What does that look like? What are the metrics around that? And so then I included a few things down here, some things that we've discovered that we're really excited about. Willamette Workforce Partnerships has a magazine, and they just put us in their magazine. So I'm going to flip over here to that, and I can't, we're in the way of the button here, so hold on one second. I'm going to go rather quickly here, and you'll see that they listed organ employability skills in their new upcoming magazine. Oops, I just passed it. So they listed those here, you'll see on the left-hand page, and then the page prior. And then they did tell people where to find it. It's that kind of thing that we're really excited about, that is really showing how we are engaging together. So now I'm back at the engagement page. I'm just saying that because I want to make sure I don't lose anybody. I've had some other things this past couple of weeks working with Chemeketa on a process in which they'll be getting a lot of their teachers engaged in OES. And so those are the kinds of things that we're looking to understand and track. We are looking at some braided funding because we believe that the project is very much a braided project. And so it would be best if it did have some braided funding. So those are things that we dug into as a group that, again, I'm just highlighting today. Some of the action things that we're looking at, just even from the perspective of this group, also is just looking at alignment. And I know we've talked a couple weeks ago about CTE alignment and different ways that we look at alignment. Getting down here to the final part here is that we made some updates to the web page, and I will tell you that that has been done. Emily added a place. Maybe I should just go there and show you. It's keeping up with me. We added the word curriculum here to educator and community partners and called out curriculum because we had people that were still like, where's the curriculum? So we tried to take care of that issue. And then we have a new workforce development toolkit here. And that's where we're putting a lot of those new resources that's coming into this project. For our workforce development folks. So those are, single pages, posters, evaluations, things like that. The other thing that we did was we created a high school and middle school survey for both the educator and the students. We've completed those. I have not added them to the curriculum yet. That should be done probably by the end of this week or first part of next week. We also created a what brought you here today. We decided that even though we didn't want to create a login for this because it can be a hindrance to people that can't remember their login, that we really do need to have data. So we created a link, and it's in the OES page. It says survey, and then I believe it pops up, but it won't pop up for me because I've used it too many times. So it's just garnering some information about how people might use OES. It does factor out into whether you're an educator or an industry partner and those kinds of things. So those are some of the things that we've done since that time, and that is our high-level overview. So if anybody has any questions for me, that's just an example of some of the work that we were doing.
Thanks, Sherry. Any questions that people have here? Venkat, you have your hand up.
Yeah, so just one question, Sherry. Thank you for your presentation. It's always been at the back of my mind, if I look at technology companies and when they hire candidates for a technical role, they really want to make sure they have these human skills or essential employability skills. So is there some kind of a certification that employers can use to make an assessment that this candidate meets those human skills? Because typically what we do when we interview students is that there is barely enough time to cover the technical aspects to make sure they're technically competent. And so we don't have enough time to assess any of these behavioral skills. So is this something that's widely available to employers to use as an assessment?
So I'll probably have to answer that in a couple of ways. One is that we do have badging available through our school districts, and so students can earn a badge. And in order to earn that badge, they have an assessment that asks them questions about each of these skills, and they also have to be able to actually tell a story of how they've used that skill. And we have a rubric for that. All of that information is online, and I'd be happy to meet with you and show you where that's at. One of the things that we recently created for workforce development, and I literally produce things every week from questions like this, someone will say, do you have this? Do you have that? And if we don't have it, and it's needed, we're going to make it. So we do now have a 4-question little Google form that a person could give in industry to an individual that could gauge a little bit about what the person knows. It's a very slim and trim, so it's not going to dig in real deep, but it is going to give you an idea of whether they have that common language. We are working also with companies to think about how when they interview, how they include questions and how they're garnering this common language in between industry and education. And so that's some of the things that I'm putting in that toolkit. They're kind of the slimmer, trimmer version of things. Then I'd say the final thing is I am meeting with WESD today with Emily and Jen, because we are going to create a single badge that really just signifies that the person knows the 10 skills. So that's again, that's a slimmer version, but it would be something that a person could show. And then we have students that are putting their badges on their resumes. Now, not every teacher will take the time to give the student the assessment. So that is something that I think is going to grow over time. And we are looking at how other organizations can give those assessments as well. So I would say we're on the trail of that. We do understand the need for it. But I welcome the voice of anyone in this group who would say, here would be a really great way to do that, because I'm still trying to find that fit for a person who says, this is small enough that I can do it, but it's meaningful enough to mean something.
Okay.
Any other questions for Sherry? Todd?
Looks like Todd.
I don't necessarily have a question, Tom and Sherry, but maybe three things I wanted to just offer up. The first is a reminder. So I'm going to share my screen real quick. And that reminder, maybe I'm not. Can you see that? So this is the charter that we created with Lindsay Woolsey. And the reason that you're hearing about, in part, this great work that Sherry continues to do is because of what's called out in the one bucket of work on the charter that Lindsay entitled Operation Expand OES. So I just wanted to pull this up as a reminder and a refresher in terms of what we laid out, agreed to, and voted to approve as our charter over the next couple of years. It's got not only actions, but importantly, measurable outcomes. So hopefully you still have this as members of the committee close by to reference. I'll go ahead and suggest to Aaliyah that we go ahead after the meeting and send it out, just so that you have it close by. So I wanted to share that. So I'll stop sharing that. And the other two items I wanted to toss out there was I wanted to offer, I got a really great email from Howard Burns, who's on today. I think it was just yesterday or maybe the day before too, around some ideas that and maybe questions he had. And then I saw our old and good friend, Jenny Newby on. And when I heard you say badges, it made me think of her and the great work that she led under strengthening community colleges and the funding that we received from DOL and the badging work in the post-secondary area at the community colleges. So I don't know if, Jenny, I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you had anything you wanted to share, after Howard had the opportunity to chat, I wanted to give you the space to be able to do that.
Well, thanks, Todd. First of all, I read the document and I thought it was excellent. I really enjoyed going through it. I have one question about the document before I get into another topic. In the short version, which is on page 2, it says OES is crucial for Oregon students in workforce development. And I'm just wondering, would it be better to remove the word students and say something like is crucial for Oregonians seeking workforce development? So it's more broader than somebody, somebody could take away that this is really only for existing students. And it's not a criticism, it's just a thought. And so I don't know what you think about that.
Howard, real quick, where are you seeing that?
It's in the short version on page 2 where it says OES is crucial for Oregon students in workforce development.
Thank you. We actually tried to remove the word students everywhere for that reason, and I missed that. So thank you so much for bringing that up. I will make that change.
No problem. No, thanks. The other thing that, and I can send this out to anybody who would like it, and I'm going to just show this. this is Bellevue University, and I hope you're seeing it right, but basically they've created a workforce academy. And what they're doing is there's an assessment. They're making it free to companies, to anybody. And it identifies where you may be weak in skills. And then obviously it points them, hey, we at Bellevue are offering these. So I believe what OES is doing, I think the end result is the same, if I'm correct. And I think it's really good. And I'm curious, one of the things I asked Todd yesterday is, what is the current level of consumption of those OES modules? Because I've been to the site, and I think there's 10? And what's the current consumption of these modules? Is it getting in front of the right people? Are they doing it, completing them, blah, blah, blah?
Howard, that's a little bit unknown for us because we can't track the data from the website, particularly. And then a lot of our teachers will take the curriculum, and because it's Google, they'll copy it off and they'll move it over, or they'll also use it in Canvas, and they also use it in Google Classrooms. And so it makes it very, very difficult for us to track. That's one of the reasons we added the survey, is because we know that we need to understand that information. And I believe the only way we're going to get to that is to have enough funding to be able to dig in and understand. I can tell you that I have never been busier. Okay, I have never been busier than I am as of the last 2 weeks in terms of workforce development, the extended learning opportunities, which would be our outdoor schools, our after-school programs, boys and girls clubs, things like that. It's kind of wild to me how many places this is taking off, but unfortunately, there is somewhat of a mystery about who all is using it. We garner information from different things that we do with schools. And for instance, I went to a manufacturing meeting about a month ago, and there were 3 schools represented there, and all 3 told me they were using it. So that's a real plus. But again, does that get us to those numbers? It doesn't. So, and it's just going to take more manpower than just me to be able to assess that. That's just being honest.
No, that's great, because that leads to my last question. If there was an educational entity, for example, Oregon State, that was willing to put these courses on our platform, which can do all the tracking and reporting, because I do that right now for employer-sponsored learners. That's my role at OSU, and I'm getting, I have my data, and I can identify who's taking what from where very easily. Is that something that really is not what you want to do? Do you want it where it's located now, or whether it's OSU or somewhere else, would you welcome it moving to a platform that could give you those statistics, the descriptive stats as to who's consuming it and who they are, blah, blah, blah? Would that be something of value?
Of course, I have a team behind me, so I can't speak for everyone, but I think there would definitely be some value in that conversation, because again, our role is really protecting the people that are on these systems, and we don't currently have a way to do that, because our Canvas version is a public version, so it cannot collect any kind of data. Anytime, though, we do things like that, typically we don't do it exclusively, because there's always someone who can't use it in that way. We have people in the incarcerated populations that have to have it by paper, those kinds of things. But I think there would be I think we would really welcome that conversation, Howard.
Great. I'll connect offline with you on that.
Thank you.
And you can rest assured we've had that conversation multiple times. And probably spent an hour trying to figure out what the barriers are, because obviously PR is data driven, and with no data you can't go and get grants, you can't get funding. So it's definitely been on our top priority list. So the survey is kind of step 1 of that process, and I checked that, Sherry, and that does pop up right away.
Yay, thank you.
So it's interesting. I guess I thought I had one more. I was done, but when I first clicked on the survey, it did say sign in, and then I clicked on it, and it took me right to the survey. But it was prompting me the first time to sign in.
Well, good to know that. I will discuss that with Emily today because I am not the web person, but I will check in with her on that.
And now I'm done.
Thank you,
Okay.
Howard.
There's a message in the message board. Denise, is the link that Mary Louise shared with you, is that what you were looking for? Good. All right. Jenny, did you have a comment to make before we move on?
What do I want to say? So awesome work. I still keep thinking about so many things related to alignment, and ownership. Again, I'm in a totally different role now. I'm not working on the badging, and employability skills with the community colleges, so I don't exactly know where they are, with that. But I just keep thinking about that. I mean, I think one of the most difficult things is, and kind of to Venkat's point, is a digital badge is a mechanism by which a student or an applicant can embed something in a resume. And if we're really future thinking, we're going to start thinking about the ways in which, because we know our resumes go through AI mechanisms these days. So if we keep thinking forward, there needs to be something that students that we're preparing for the workforce can put on their resume that's going to be picked up and understood that these skills have been attained. And a digital badge does that. Because if you earn a digital badge and it has meaning, then you shouldn't have to worry. It's like a certification. You can make it that way. So I keep thinking about that. And when you have free versions, I keep thinking about the free thing, like free to whom? Free to the agency, whichever one that is. Is it ODE? Is it HEC? Is it WTDB? Like where is this living? I think we got to figure that out. And then how do we serve not just K-12, but post-secondary as well? What does that look like? I guess I would just, from someone who hasn't been in the work for the last few months, but that would be my outside perspective.
Great, thank you. Sherry, would you share your PowerPoint? I think
Which
that's what Denise,
PowerPoint?
Denise, it looks like you didn't
okay.
get
I
the
see what she's
PowerPoint.
saying. Yeah, I see what she's saying. Actually, it is linked in that document.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, it's linked in there. I wanted to respond if I could real quick, Tom, that
sure.
when it comes to using Canvas badges, they are free all the way around. There is no cost for anyone, but you lose the ability to get data when you use free. That's always the issue, right? And then one other thing that I didn't mention is Blue Mountain is changing their College Success 201 to include Oregon employability skills, and then it will be a dual credited course. And I had 3 other community colleges get in contact with me. That's why I said I've never been busier. I had 3 last week that are looking at also doing something very similar to that.
All right, any more questions? Because we're ready to move on to the next item. All right, hearing none. Venkat,
Yeah, I
can
have,
you?
sorry, I thought you saw my hand,
Sorry,
Tom. This is
missed
Todd.
ya.
One quick question for Howard. Howard, I was just, again, revisiting the outcomes part of the charter as it relates to OES around commitments from top 5 impact partners. And I was thinking about what you said in that way, and it made me think, if there was a potential solution that could be agreed to capture that data on OSU's website, is there a cost to that, or could we just leverage that with the work you already do?
I don't want to commit at the moment, but I don't believe there'd be a funding gating factor, or if there was, it would be minimal. I mean, it would be whatever we had to do to set it up, or maintain it, but I don't think would be a big amount, if any. But don't hold me to that because I'm speaking without checking.
Yeah, no, I got you. I get it. And maybe it's a pilot or something. I don't know. I don't want to take any more time up, Tom, but thank you, Howard.
All
No
right.
problem.
Venkat, you're up for Project STEM Lift and the work group work.
Okay. Tom, I just realized I was on the agenda, but it's okay. I have some slides I've been working on, so maybe I'll share those. How much time do I have?
You can have about 10 minutes.
Okay. So let me see if I can share something with you. Hopefully you all can see this. So this set of slides is a work in progress. And so I just wanted to go through the outline of what we're talking about in terms of integrating AI tools into the classroom. And so I've already incorporated some feedback I've got as we've been taking this and socializing this among a few stakeholders and partners. And so the outline is what challenges do we face in Oregon with respect to STEM education, particularly math, and what have we already tried? What does an AI solution offer? Why we're proposing to go with Khanmigo, having evaluated a set of tools, and then what are the common concerns we get when we try to propose this? What is the benefit to students? What's the benefit to teachers? What evaluation criteria should we use when deploying a pilot, and what our strategy should look like? So based on that, I'll quickly walk through some of these slides and happy to take any feedback. And as I mentioned before, some of this is a work in progress, so appreciate your patience. So this is the motivational side, which tells you the data. The dotted line, the gray dotted line is inflation, and green is how much we spend per student and how much that's outpacing inflation. And then at the bottom, on the negative y-axis, you see our math scores and our reading scores, which have been on a downward trend even before the pandemic. And so even though I think the takeaway is that even though we have increased per student spending, our outcomes haven't been great. And so the digging into or peeling layer by layer of this onion, we find lots of reasons for it and substantiated with data sources. So one is chronic absenteeism in Oregon. And by the way, Oregon is the last in the country when adjusted for demographics, when you look at reading and math scores. So it's chronic absenteeism, lower enrollment, more homeschooling. We have a shorter school year, so that means 1 year in aggregate of less instructional time. Then there's local control, and then teachers being burnt out with large class sizes and a huge amount of administrative burden, and then how administrative costs keep going up. So that per pupil spending or per student spending I was talking about, that's just continued to grow. So those funds aren't reaching the classroom; they're going more towards administrative costs. And so this is a slide I want to fill with help from ODE, and so I'm asking Adrian Pierce, who helps us with the STEM Council, to tell us what we've already tried. And then this chart just tells me, what an AI solution can offer. So the first one is personalized learning, gives you real-time analytics of how students are doing, how we can empower teachers, and not just help them with their administrative burden, but also help them with their professional development and learning. And it's a very scalable option. And here is where I intend to compare different kinds of AI tools, some that have already been tried. For example, Hillsborough's looked at a tool called Magic School, and why that I believe that is inferior to Khan Academy. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go forward. So, when speaking with the Khan Academy team, they already have established many district partnerships and across multiple of states, and they're all at the bottom of this slide. They support 36 languages. They're very mission aligned, being nonprofit. And if you look at their course content, even before AI was a thing, they had these YouTube videos that would explain concepts very clearly. So what they've done is they've taken a foundational model from OpenAI, they've fine-tuned it with all of their data corpus, which is humongous. And that's why their accuracy levels are very good when you compare it to other AI tools that are out there in the marketplace. So the Socratic method is what I was mentioning because there is a way that students can use large language models today, and they use it incorrectly because they can just take the questions, homework questions or test questions, feed it into the model, and it spits an answer, they paste it back. And so that really destroys their critical thinking rather than understanding the material. And so these tools are able to engage in a way. Sorry. So that was a 60 minutes interview with Sal Khan. So that's been included in the slide. So these are some of the concerns we're getting, that if you use AI tools, that's only going to erode more critical thinking and literacy. But when you look at the engaging style of the tool, it tries various approaches based on the student's interest. So it could even, for example, it could create gaming analogies or provide the real concept and make sure that the student understands it and ask very probing questions. Why do you think this is the right approach? Have you tried this other method? And so it doesn't really provide the answer rather than encouraging the student to find the answer on their own. And so that adaptability is really the key part of this reasoning model. And this is where the technology has come now, because we've gone from generative AI to reasoning AI with agents. And these reasoning models are getting really, really good. And so they're a perfect fit for an education approach. And then there's obviously things that come up with hallucinations for models. And the way Khanmigo stands out here is just because of their course content that's been curated over the years. So their accuracy is very, very good. And then the cost always comes up. And so while talking to Shauna and I had a conversation with them, and they said that it's typically $15 per student, but then they're willing to provide discounts during a pilot program and even offer further discounts if sufficient districts sign up. So there's an opportunity there for us to deploy a pilot. And briefly, the benefits to teachers, reducing their administrative burden, providing real-time student insights, and then the personalized instruction for individual students, the ones that actually need more help, and very data-driven, evidence-based strategies. And so the teacher can get a lot of their time back to focus on things we've been talking about, like the human skills and essential employability skills. And for students themselves, the content, the tutor, the personalized tutor adjusts. It's available 24/7. Very engaging, builds their confidence. And so the tool can also track the student even after they leave K through 12 into post-secondary education. And this is a chart, and I think some of that has been cut off, but this is really 3rd grade to 8th grade, saying even if you use it for 30 minutes a week, how much the scores have improved relative to our nominal national MAP assessment scores. And so each cluster of charts here represents a grade level from 3rd grade to 8th grade, and that isn't coming up, so we need to fix that slide. And then we want to provide a very concrete evaluation criteria for pilots, so that I've heard some feedback that the state wouldn't just consider a single vendor. So ideally, we want to make sure that the evaluation criteria or a rubric is developed here that we can show Khanmigo is checking all the boxes. And it's really nice to see a lot more competition now, because we have OpenAI launching something called Study Mode, and then Google's also getting interested in this space. So I think more competition is only going to make the tools better. So what we'd like to do with a pilot, and in the charter for the Workforce Readiness Committee, I'd initially proposed 4. I mean, my goal was really a handful to get this going so that we can show, if we pick a few pilot districts across, a geographic location or demographics, if we can pick a handful, deploy the pilot and show that we are actually improving our math scores, reading scores, what have you, then I think that can serve as a model for other districts to adopt it statewide. And so we want to focus on middle schools, 4th and 8th grade math and science, and then for teacher training. So that's really the investment and ROI slide that I've talked about briefly. And I'll just leave you with some next steps before I turn it back to you, Tom. I'm happy to take questions or any feedback to improve this content as we go present this to multiple stakeholders. And
Great presentation. Deb, you have a question?
Yeah, first of all, thanks, Venkat. You have spent so many hours just really trying to figure out how to solve the math issue. So thank you for your leadership in that and for vetting Khan Academy. I just want to remind everybody that when you look at college data, and I don't know what Oregon's is, I just had it when I worked at a university, how math derails our nurses, our engineers, our technicians. It really derails most post-secondary. And so this is really key. There was a number of us, about 40 of us at IBEW a few weeks ago with the Oregon Clean Energy Workforce Coalition. And so we took a tour and spent some time in a classroom with apprentices. And these were, I have to say it, all gentlemen, but men from probably age mid-40s, 20s, 18, 19, 20 to mid-40s in their 5 to 6 year apprenticeship. And math was a huge barrier. And so we were just joking with them and said, it's not your fault. We really, as a state, failed to give you a foundation in math. And the way that I always look at it, because all the research says everybody can learn math, everybody can learn it, but it's like a Jenga tower. And if you missed key components in your foundational learning, maybe you had strep throat in 3rd grade when you learned fractions, or maybe you moved schools and you picked up in different curriculum because our schools all use different math curriculum. You have a really tippy math Jenga tower. So what I love about Conmigo is it's so hard for a teacher to sit down with every single student and assess what little pieces of Jenga blocks in their math have they missed in their foundational learning. And the Conmigo AI tool does that. It quickly assesses individualized learning, what they're missing. It can bring them up to speed. So it just reinforces that Jenga tower. So I'm using a Jenga tower because I think it's the easiest way to explain why our math falls apart and why we need to really be thinking about adopting, and how it derails our future nurses. Math takes our nurses out because they can't do the math in their chemistry classes. It just cuts through every single, career pathway. So for what that's worth. But thank you, Venkat, for leading the conversation.
Thanks, Deb, for the comment. We do need to stay kind of on track here. Sarala, you're up next.
Yeah. Yeah, Venkat, great progress since I last paid attention to this. So I just want to say I am a big fan of Khan Academy before the AI stuff. My kids used it. And I also think it's a great way. Sometimes kids feel, youth feel embarrassed asking questions or insecure in a classroom. And this gives them that sort of private space. But question for you, with these concerns or pushbacks or however you want to term it, whom are you getting that from or hearing that from? Is that teachers or, yeah?
Just overall partners, I believe. Deb, maybe you can help me. Maddie was from an ESD, I believe. Was it the Northwest Region ESD or some other ESD? I don't remember. But she was the one who said you'll probably get some pushback around these areas. And then the feedback that she gave us is you should include what's already been tried so that people don't have alarm bells going off that you're pointing fingers at them.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to do that. Yes, it's been a struggle, but
Yeah.
we'll see. I'm hopeful that if we can at least get success in a handful of districts and show a turnaround, then that will serve as a model for expansion. So, and this is where I believe that local control works to our advantage. Right? We can form a coalition of the willing to do this.
When you said local control, do you mean like a state level or like district level kind of thing?
District level,
Yeah,
schools
yeah.
and district levels, yes.
Because I have been wondering, because that I have some other thoughts beyond math, for the STEM Lift project that I'll be sharing with you soon. But like, should we be going and approaching school boards and talking to them and some of us from industry, and would that get us more buy-in? Is that a group that we want to be working with?
I'm open to ideas. Maybe Deb knows a lot more about this than I do because she's been on the ground dealing with these problems.
I'm going to leave that with the committee to develop more and come back with recommendations on how you plan to move forward. Todd, you're up. quickly.
Yeah, real quick. I just wanted to welcome Sarala and Deb back. It's good to see your smiling faces. I know you've had some challenges and things that you've been working with. So welcome. Good to see you. Venkat, great stuff. The other thing I just wanted to underscore, Tom, I had a really good conversation with Johnny Farrow over at ODE the other day, who has, of course, for those who know her, close ties to local regional work on the CTE front, but is also at ODE involved in the Office of Education Innovation and Improvement. We had, like I said, an amazing conversation. So I would just encourage, if you haven't already, ODE folks, and I'm not sure what Jenny and Sherry's roles are, particularly as it relates to Johnny Farrow, but I think she would be really interested on both fronts, on OES and the AI in the classroom work that you're talking about, Venkat, with Conmigo. So I think there might be an opportunity to partner there.
I will just add that she happens to be on my board of directors for Oregon ACT. We can definitely explore that and get you invited in. Let me move on. Sherry, I'm going to skip over you. You're next on the list, but I don't want to miss out on Eric. So Eric, you're up for bringing us up to speed.
All right, thanks, Tom. I'm going to screen share. Luckily, I only have 5 slides today, so I should be pretty quick.
Good.
Sorry, having a little bit of trouble there. Is PowerPoint live how this should pop up? I don't know if something changed here, so 1 second. There it is. Okay. All right, so this is just me coming in today to do a quick kind of recap from when I presented, shared with the committee in June about a policy project we're working on related to college credit in high school. Give you a few project progress updates, a little bit of what's next, and ways that the Workforce Readiness Committee can help support the work. And just as a reminder, this project is really, we're one of 7 states selected. We're working with national funders and partners. We're focused on rural and multilingual learners, but looking at those populations in ways we can apply lessons learned to universal application to build a more coherent, accessible, robust, purposeful, better aligned system for early college credit in high school. And I'm going to move to the next slide. All right, so as I mentioned in June, there are really 4 pillars to our project. One is to develop and adopt a statewide vision for college credit in high school. That would go before the Higher Education Coordinating Commission in December and the State Board of Education in December as well. Building an advising toolkit with 3 tiers of support for anybody to be able to pick up in a school setting to support student decisions about early college credit opportunities. The building of a communications plan is our 3rd pillar, 3rd deliverable here, and then a policy proposal, which hopefully is we're working towards a policy proposal for the 2027 session. May or may not involve asking for additional resources. It may involve potentially repurposing some things to support early college credit systems. Okay, so those are our 4 pillars of our project. And since we last met, some things we've been working on, we mapped our project deliverables onto a timeline, which you're just seeing an example here of our timeline visually with benchmarks along the way. We've developed an engagement calendar, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about a survey that is going to be coming out and how you can help with that. And that survey is going to help us develop the statewide vision for early college credit. So if you look at fall of 2025, where we're getting closer to now, that's really going to be one of our key projects coming up here in the fall. Okay. And just with this policy project, some of the ways that we're thinking about Workforce Readiness Committee being able to support the project. First is direct involvement, participating in our survey about the statewide vision. So we've been working on that survey really for the last several weeks and getting various partners taking a look at it to try to get some of the jargon out of it and just make a survey that could be taken by anybody who's interested in the state of Oregon who wants to give some feedback about early college credit opportunities for high school students. So hopefully members of this committee, you'll all take the survey. We also want to come back and be able to provide some updates to you on what the survey results look like. That survey, we believe, will be open anytime between the next couple of weeks all the way into about mid-November. And also give us some feedback on the advising toolkit as we start developing that and the development of a legislative concept or policy option package. Helping us brainstorm solutions to roadblocks that might emerge with the project. I think I mentioned this in June, but we're convening, starting in the fall, kind of an informal advisory group for the project. And we just ask, are there members who have the time and the interest in participating in some quarterly Zoom or Teams meetings all the way through December of 2026 to do a little deeper dive and give us some feedback along the way. Leveraging your connections. So as I mentioned, we're specifically looking through the lens of access to early college credit for rural communities and multilingual students. And how can members of the Workforce Readiness Committee, is there anybody that could help us reflect to think about how we can better connect with those communities, leveraging your connections. And then finally, helping to distribute that survey that is going to be coming out, we hope, in the next couple of weeks to partners in your networks. Let's going to the next slide. There we go. Okay, this is my last slide today. This is just a reminder. I'm just one of the partners in this project. There are other HEC and ODE leaders involved. We also have a community college core team member from Umpqua Community College, Missy Olson. We have research partners from Education Northwest. So we have regular project team convenings, and like I said, I'm just one member of the group, and excited to share with you what we're working on, and just, I guess, would pause and open it up to any questions.
Does anybody have great work, by the way, Eric? Appreciate that, and also like the direction you guys are going. Any comments or questions? All right, I don't see any hands, so we've got a few minutes left. Sherry, I'll put you back on if you want to talk about the executive sponsorship and Operation Expand OES.
Yeah, so I don't have an update on the executive sponsorship because that's really a Charlie piece, and so I'm sure he'll fill us in at the next meeting on that. The one thing that does have to do with expanded partnerships that I did forget to mention earlier, because there's always so many things, right? We are embedding OES inside of CIS. Now, that is not an exclusive relationship. That is that, especially in middle school, we are creating a space where if students are working on CIS, they can be doing the curriculum in OES. And I think you guys will very quickly see that once a student is thinking about their skills and then going and taking a skills assessment, that there's going to be greater connection for the student in being able to actually think through and connect with the things that they like to do in the future. So that is one of those partners that we're engaging with. They have asked for that, and I have had other partners. Group Trail is another one that has asked to have some direct direct connectivity, and we are very open to that. We want to make things as easy for people as possible. So that was really the only thing that I forgot to mention. In VinCat, I sent you and Johnny a connection email, so you guys should be able to connect on that. And then we do have Maggie here today. I don't know if Maggie wants to say anything, because she's mine and Susan's supervisor, and from ODE, working on that EII team. Sorry, I always say it wrong.
Cherry, I think you've done a great job, and seem like we're running out of time. I'm happy to be in partnership with all of you and working towards how can we work with industry partners, schools, and everyone, in trying to all be on the same page. And that is something that I'm really passionate about, because if we don't get support from many different places, it's going to be hard to move this work together. So I'm just echoing what I'm also hearing from all of you, that we all need to work together and find ways of looking at how we fund things, because I think we all are pulling, especially around education. There's not a lot of money in that space any longer. And if industry can support, we can also lift them up, and they're having the workforce that they're looking for as well. So thanks, Sherry, for asking if I had any words. And I'm glad to be a part of this team and working towards the same goals and outcomes.
Thanks, Maggie, for your comments. Any last words before I send you all back to your summer nests?
I just want to pop in one more time, Todd. Sorry.
Oh, gee,
but
Todd.
Deb, since you're back, I'm sure you and I are, well, we try to get on each other's calendars, and unfortunately it's not going to be until this middle of the month because we're so booked. But just FYI, as Co-Chair Tom, just so you know, we'll be sort of getting back together around another nugget within the charter around creating a revised definition around college and career readiness. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Todd. All right. Well, thanks everybody for participating today. A lot of information, and I wish you all a good summer, and enjoy yourselves and your family. So thanks again. See you later.
Thanks,
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.